Eminem has been in beefs his whole life. MGK, Ja Rule, Benzino, even his own mother, everyone caught it.
This is it, as big as you're gonna get, so enjoy it. Had to give you a career to destroy it. Vanilla ice, spill the beans and rice. I'm eating you alive inside. Jesus Christ.
Marshall Mathers coldly destroyed all these cringy stereotypes that white people can't rap. He dominated depression, addiction, and now he's proving that age isn't a red flag when it comes to rapping. He turned 50 in 2022, but he's still insanely skilled.
Still totally inappropriate with an opiate, groping it while I'm holding it like a trophy. I'm hoping a little codeine will give me OD, and whoa, everything is slow, I begin to float.
Poverty, lost battles, suicide attempts, being put on life support. His story really gives you chills.
He doesn't need to collab with the new school to stay relevant or act cringe on TikTok for views. He's still rapping about his wild hookup with flight attendants and making non-mainstream stuff.
The guy just stays in his own lane, keeps his personal life private, doesn't flex his money.
Eminem was obsessed with rap as a kid and still is. Human Rap Machine is basically his well-earned title. In this video we'll break down the great Slim Shady empire, go through his rough journey and explain why he's the ultimate giga chat of the industry.
Before Eminem became one of the most recognizable artists in hip-hop history, his life looked nothing like that of a future superstar.
Everything he went through as a child would later show up in his music. Anger, pain, hatred, loneliness, resentment toward family, fear, poverty, and a constant need to prove himself.
Eminem's story is the American dream, but in its darker version. Drugs, fights, and white trash life in beat-up trailers. That was Eminem's life before fame.
Eminem's real name is Marshall Bruce Mathers III. He was born on October 17, 1972, in Missouri in Kansas City into a family that could hardly be called stable. His parents were connected to show business, but not the shiny glamorous world you might imagine. Marshall's father and mother performed in a show group that played gigs in bars along the state borders. His family fell apart almost right after he was born. Marshall was still a baby when his father packed up and left. About 5 or 6 months after he was born, the absence of his father became one of those wounds that stayed with him for life. He never managed to forgive him.
I never knew him, so...
You never met him since?
Never met him, never knew him.
Do you want to, or...?
I don't know. I don't know. Some people ask me that. I don't think I do. I can't understand how... If my kids moved to the edge of the earth, I'd find them. No doubt in my mind. No money, no nothing. If I had nothing, I'd find my kids. So there's no excuse.
Later, the themes of abandonment, anger toward parents, and distrust of the world will become central in his music. You'd think at least he had his mother, one loving person, but it wasn't that simple either. His mother, Debbie, couldn't stay in one place for long. That's why Marshall's childhood was spent constantly moving. He grew up in a trailer, moving with his mother from Missouri to Michigan. They were poor, took out loans, and according to stories, were constantly running from creditors.
And didn't have a normal childhood. Marshall had to change schools every 2 or 3 months. In those conditions, it was nearly impossible to make friends, study well, or stay out of trouble. He was always the new kid on outsider in already established environments.
And every time he had to prove himself all over again. The only truly close person for him in those years was his uncle Ronnie. It was Ronnie who introduced Marshall to hip-hop. Later, Eminem would recall that his uncle was not just a relative, but his best friend. A friend also because despite being his uncle, Ronnie was roughly the same age as his nephew. Ronnie was a huge rap fan himself. He made mixtapes for Marshall and had a big influence on his musical taste. When Marshall was around 9, Ronnie gave him Ice-T's Reckless, which changed how he saw rap.
DJ's task was just to play records. What more could you add?
The first time I heard anything, my Uncle Ronnie brought over a tape of Breaking Soundtrack, and it had Reckless on it from Ice-T.
The first rap record Eminem ever heard was Reckless.
Just to play records. What more could you ask? But then came remixes, scratching and cuts.
Later, Eminem also recalled that the first rap album he ever heard was Rhyme Pace by Ice-T, which his uncle gave him in 1987.
Busted girls can't
The details vary depending on the version of the story, but the point is the same. Ronnie was the one who introduced Marshall to hip-hop, and hip-hop became Eminem's lifelong passion. When Marshall turned 12, his mother finally decided to settle down. They moved to Detroit, into a predominantly black neighborhood. According to Eminem's memories, there were almost no white people in the area besides their family, only a couple of crazy bikers living nearby. In 1986, Marshall's younger brother Nathan was born, and the family needed stability even more, stability they never managed to achieve.
Debbie said she chose their neighborhood because she didn't care about people's skin color, but she also admitted that local teens caused, and those weren't just minor conflicts.
One day Marshall was walking home from a friend's house. A car with 3 black guys drove past him. They flipped him off and he flipped them off back. One of them got out and punched him in the face so hard he fell down. Then the guy pulled out a gun. Eminem later said he literally jumped out of his sneakers. He thought they were after his shoes. But when he came back the next day, the sneakers were still there, lying in the dirt.
Moments like that gave him a constant sense of danger. He was a white kid in a neighborhood where he stood out immediately. He didn't feel like he belonged at home, on the streets, or at school.
What makes people from Detroit different than people from other cities, would you say? Is there a certain kind of person that lives in Detroit?
What makes people from Detroit different?
Yeah.
Just because, like, in our city, there's not a whole lot to do. So people are like, there's not a lot here, you know? We're just starting to get things here, so it's like, you know, there's a lot of tension in the city.
School wasn't any easier. Most of the students there were black, and Marshall constantly faced bullying. According to stories, he was mocked, pushed around, beaten, and humiliated. He ever said that in gym class they would throw him into a basketball hoop.
You got beat up a lot as a kid.
Yeah, there was a lot of instances that I would
You got beat up coming home from school.
Beat up in bathroom, beat up in the hallways, shoved in the lockers, you know, just for the most part, man, you know, just being the new kid.
One of Eminem's first songs was Brain Damage. It was autobiographical and told the story of his relationship with his main school enemy, a teenager named D'Angelo Bailey, who was 2 grades above him.
Now that bully wants to beat your ass and I'ma let him. Damage ever since the day I was born.
Eminem recalled one incident. He was in 4th grade and a kid named Bailey was in 6th. One day Bailey walked into the bathroom where Marshall was and hit him in the back so hard that he fell and wet himself.
According to one version, Marshall couldn't go back to school for a month. It was the kind of humiliation a kid never forgets. But there was an even worse incident. One winter, Marshall said something about one of Bailey's friends. Bailey decided to deal with him. He grabbed him, knocked him down, and started smashing his head into the ice. Marshall's ear started bleeding, and he lost consciousness. Bailey got scared and ran away. After that, Marshall ended up in the hospital, and according to this version of the story, spent 5 days in a coma. According to stories, it was events like these that pushed him to write Brain Damage. In a song, he harshly mocked and insulted his tormentor. If in real life he was a boy who could be beaten and humiliated, then in lyrics he could finally answer back. However, many years later, in 2001, D'Angelo Bailey filed a $1 million lawsuit against Eminem for defamation and invasion of privacy, claiming that Eminem had lied about him in the lyrics of Brain Damage. However, the lawsuit was dismissed.
It was in schools that Marshall started taking part in rap battles. In these battles, teenagers competed in rhymes, punchlines, quick thinking, and the ability to destroy their opponents with words.
Eminem began attending battles regularly, realizing that rap might be his way up.
So I went there, I said the rap, I got some people jumping around and shit, and I was like, okay, this might be it for me. And then that's when we started having battles at the hip hop shop. And we was having like a battle every, couple months or something? Yeah, every 2 or 3 months. But every Saturday, I would make sure that I didn't have to work till 4 o'clock because I was going to the hip hop shop every Saturday. So every Saturday for me was, and this is early 20s, was St. Andrews Hall on Friday night, Saturday, hip hop shop, Tuesday, Ebony Showcase, and then
anybody that knows Showcase, they say, fuck, I gotta battle him tonight, he's here.
At around 30, Marshall started writing and recording his own rap. It was in those school freestyles that his stage name was born. He took his initials M and M and said them out loud. Later that would become Eminem.
Explain to people the spelling of your name. Does it mean anything the way that you have the E-M-I-N-E-E-M?
It means absolutely nothing. I didn't want to get sued by Eminem, so I spelled it out.
But the path in battle rap was far from easy for him. As soon as he took the mic, they might shout insults like, "Hey white boy, go back to playing your rock and roll," or something like that. He was perceived as an outsider. And yet he had something that was impossible to ignore: talent. By that time, he already had several loyal friends among the black teenagers who supported him.
Later, Eminem recalled that at first people would tell him, "You're too cool for a white guy." In his youth, he took it as a compliment. The most valuable recognition for him was a phrase someone once said in Detroit. The point was basically this: it doesn't matter if he's green, orange, or whatever else, this guy is cool. Kimberly Scott, the future mother of his child, his future wife, and one of the main lyrical heroines of his upcoming albums. Their relationship would become one of the most dramatic storylines in Eminem's biography, but back then, they were just teenagers trying to survive in very tough circumstances. Around the same age, according to this version of his biography, Marshall founded his first rap group called New Jacks, which lasted for a couple of years.
Things went poorly for him in school. In one interview, M claims that he flunked out of 9th grade after 5 retakes. In another, that at 17 he finally left school for good.
Even earlier, around 16, his mother gave him a harsh ultimatum. Either he helps her financially or he gets out of the house. Marshall had to look for a job. He tried different jobs but never felt like he belonged anywhere. He worked as a seasonal laborer, a waiter, and a cook in a restaurant. One of the restaurant owners later recalled that Marshall was a good worker, but he had one peculiarity: he was constantly rapping. He could rhyme about anything, including the dishes on the menu. Sometimes he had to be told to keep it down because the restaurant was a family establishment.
At the same time, he started participating in more serious battles on independent rap platforms. At the same time, he didn't want to be seen only as a battle MC. In his opinion, such a definition narrowed the perception of the artist. He was much more than just a battle rapper.
At 17, Marshall performed live every night on one of the local radio stations. In 1992, Eminem began performing at one of Detroit's most famous hip-hop clubs. Every week he took part in rap battles. A year later, he started winning them consistently. Gradually, he began to get noticed in Detroit's underground scene and then was invited to perform on one of the city's top hip-hop radio stations. A year later, one of the most serious blows of fate would hit Eminem. His uncle Ronnie would commit suicide on December 13, 1993. Debbie called Marshall at his friend's house. She was crying and said that Ronnie had died.
Yeah, my Uncle Ronnie started liking rap before I did, and then he kind of introduced me to it. And right around that time, I think the movie had just come out, and I saw the movie, and I was like, yo, I love it.
For Marshall, this was a devastating blow. Ronnie wasn't just a relative, he was his best friend. Later, the rapper would honor his memory with a tattoo on his body.
For a while, Eminem even stopped writing songs and rapping. Shortly before that, he recorded the album Infinite, but this release didn't bring him a breakthrough. On the contrary, the record was poorly received. Few people were interested in it. The independent label Web Entertainment, which worked with him, sold just over 1,000 copies, destroyed the rest of the run, and stopped working with him. Though not forever.
To let you knock it if you press the issue, and get undressed to kiss you if you match the price.
For an artist who was already on the edge, it was almost a death sentence. There was no money at all. Eminem later recalled that sometimes friends would buy him clothes. He was a grown man, he had dreams, a family, obligations, but financially he was almost at rock bottom. In March of 1995, Kim told Marshall that she was pregnant, and on December 25, 1995, their daughter Haley Jade was born. The birth of his daughter became the most important event in his life. If before he fought mainly for himself, now he had someone to live for.
After Haley was born, Eminem returned to creativity with new material and became more noticeable in the hip-hop underground. He started writing songs for the radio, but it didn't bring any stability.
Marshall, Kim, and Haley were evicted from their apartment. Eminem didn't even have money for diapers for his daughter. It was that level of poverty where the question wasn't about a career, or dreams, or a future album, but about the simplest things: where to sleep, what to feed the child, how to live another day.
The relationship with Kim was also getting harder. One day, Kim left Marshall and took Haley with her. She wouldn't let him into her parents' family home and wouldn't let him visit with his daughter.
In December 1996, Eminem suffered from a near-fatal overdose. At that moment, he seriously contemplated. He was that far down.
When he realized he was going to have to work for a living, Marshall and my sister would compete over who had the most pills. Yeah, they would fight over who had the most, not who had the pills, who had the most pills.
Black community said no to him.
He was sort of the white zebra.
You're not black, we don't want you here.
He was out of place.
This boy, he wanted to die.
Later, Kim and Marshall reconciled. They lived together in a trailer, just like the one where Marshall spent his childhood. For a long time, there was a bullet hole in one of the walls of their home, left by a stray bullet that had flown in through the window.
Over the course of 2 years, they had to buy 4 TVs and 5 VCRs because their equipment was frequently stolen. This life was far from any kind of romance.
His last hope was the Rap Olympics, an annual rap competition held in Los Angeles. For Marshall, it was a chance to break out, a chance to prove himself beyond Detroit, a chance to get noticed by people who could change his life. He went there with his last bit of money, but he wasn't able to win. But even losing there turned out to be important. His manager, Paul Rosenberg, recalled sitting in the audience and hearing a black spectator nearby shouting, "Give the prize to the white guy, give the prize to the white guy." According to Rosenberg, at that moment it looked like Eminem was about to cry. Global world fame was just around the corner, although Marshall himself didn't yet know it then.
At the Rap Olympics in '97, I beat out everybody. Like, I went through many people and got to the end and choked a little bit. The guy who beat me, I don't know where he is now. But the prize, if you won the battle, was $500 and a Rolex. And the night before I flew to LA, I had just got kicked out of my house, got evicted from my house. And I'll never forget this. I was staying in the house with no heat. All the electric was cut off and everything. And I had to climb in through the back window, sleep on the floor, and then have my cell phone with me so Paul could give me a wake-up call in the morning because I didn't have an alarm clock so I could catch my plane to go to the Rap Olympics. So when I lost the battle, I needed that $500 so much. I don't know if it was a real Rolex or it was a fake Rolex. I didn't care about the Rolex, but I needed that $500. And when I lost, I felt like my whole manhood was just completely stripped of me. I was so mad, literally, like so emotional. I almost felt like crying.
After everything Marshall Mathers went through in childhood, school, and early youth, there was already too much anger in him for it to just disappear. He lived in poverty for years, constantly moving, enduring humiliation, fights, bullying, lost a loved one, tried to build a family without money or stability, worked ordinary jobs, and at the same time desperately tried to break into rap. And then someone appeared who changed everything, his alter ego. And his name is Slim Shady.
Interestingly, Marshall didn't come up with this character in a vacuum. His appearance was inadvertently prompted by Eminem's close friend, Proof. It was Proof who wanted to gather Detroit's best MCs into a group that would become the local version of the Wu-Tang Clan. The idea was to unite 12 rappers and call the group Dirty Dozen. But instead of 12 people, they only managed to gather 6. So Proof came up with a way to double that number without bringing in new rappers.
I make up the 6th member, and it's really a half dozen. We call it the Dirty Dozen.
So where does the other half come from?
Because we all got aliases, so it's 12 of us. I'm Eminem / Slim Shady. Proof, Dirty Harry.
I get it now. I get it. I got it.
Get it?
Yeah. I got it. Yeah.
Later, Eminem wrote in his autobiography The Way I Am that this was one of those moments when Proof played a huge role in his life because that's exactly where Slim Shady came from. Shady became more than just a stage name. He became an outlet for everything Marshall had carried inside for years. In this persona, he embodied how others saw him: a black sheep, a psycho, an outsider, and an angry loser, a guy with nothing to lose. Only now he took control of that image himself. Later, in the annotation for Just Don't Give a Fuck on Genius, Eminem explained that when he started rapping as Shady, it became a way to let out all his frustration and just blame everything on him. In other words, Slim Shady was a convenient mask. Marshall could say the harshest, meanest, most unacceptable things, and then, as if step aside, like, that wasn't me, that was Shady.
But something else is important. Eminem didn't want Slim Shady to be just some reckless clown who shocks people just for the sake of it. For him, technique, rhymes, delivery, and lyrical skills were still important. Eminem gradually developed 3 main personas.
The first Marshall Mathers is the real person behind the mask. Traumatized, serious, sometimes vulnerable, a loving father. This is the side you hear in songs like Mockingbird.
World we got in this world, when it spins, when it swirls, when it whirls, when it twirls, too little.
The second is Eminem. This is the artist, the rapper, the technician, the person focused on words, rhymes, storytelling, and battle rap skills. He can be mean, but still more controlled. A typical track is a rap god.
Oh, he's too mainstream. Well, that's what they do when they get jealous, they confuse it. It's not hip-hop, it's pop.
And the third is Slim Shady, the most dangerous of the 3. He is the antagonist, the demon on Marshall's shoulder, a character with no restraints, no censorship, and no fear of taboo topics. He says what a normal person would swallow, hide, and never dare to say out loud.
Hi, my name is Chicka Slim Shady. Slim Shady is like my introduction to the world. Slim Shady is gonna be the record that like promotes the album before it comes out and like gets it up to where it needs to be. You know what I mean? For me to like establish my following throughout the world. You know what I mean? It's like Just Don't Give a F was like a record that was just kind of thrown out there for the underground, establish that, build the foundation, and then Take My Name Is, take it up here.
If Marshall is pain and Eminem is skill, then Slim Shady is an explosion.
Eminem is the rapper, Slim Shady will kill you, and Marshall Mathers is the person like behind the whole.
Visually, this persona was also recognizable, a thin, pale guy with bright bleached hair, a crazy smirk, in a plain white t-shirt, jeans, sometimes in a jacket or a tracksuit. Later, the look changed. Dark hair, a beard, hoodies, suits, various visual versions in music videos. But the classic Shady is exactly that bleached to near cartoonish character who looks like he just escaped from a mental asylum and is now about to host his own TV show. The first real dose of madness appeared on the Slim Shady EP in 1997. After the failure of Infinite, this was a completely different sound.
There, Marshall stopped trying to be a proper rapper. He became someone who was impossible to ignore. He said no to any rules, taboos, and decencies.
Go run and tell your friends, this is why I just don't give up. But see me on the street.
And the underground heard him. After the Slim Shady EP, a movement started around Eminem. He began getting calls for performances and people started talking about him. Finally, there was not just a talented white MC from Detroit, but a character who couldn't be confused with anyone else. The real explosion happened 2 years later when the Slim Shady LP was released. It was this album that made Eminem a star. It blew up the charts, became one of the key rap releases of the late 90s, and earned the artist his first Grammy for Best Rap Album. Today, it is already a cult album, which, back in 2021, surpassed 1 billion streams on Spotify alone.
On the Slim Shady LP, the artist finally solidified the formula: crazy plots, dark humor, social anger, pop culture references, criminal aesthetics, and at the same time, incredible technical precision. In 97 Bonnie and Clyde, he told a horrific story where the protagonist, along with his young daughter, gets rid of the body of Kim, his wife. This was one of the most shocking moments of early Eminem, but behind it lay real emotional trauma. Marshall believed that Kim wasn't letting him see Haley. Instead of a direct admission of pain, he turned it into a grotesque horror.
And Mama said she wants to show you how far she can float. And don't worry about that little boo-boo wanna throw.
That was the essence of Slim Shady. He took real resentment and blew it up to the point of absurdity, real anger to the level of a cartoonish crime. Here's what he said himself about this track.
97 Bonnie and Clyde theme. And that song was about the murder of my daughter's mother and putting him in the trunk. And at the time when I wrote that song, I really felt like I wanted to do that. There's a lot of fathers that go through a lot of stuff with their babies' mothers, and they want to do that stuff, but they just don't say it. If you've never been so mad at somebody, has anybody ever put you through something, through so much crap that you actually felt like killing them? Whatever's on my mind, I'm gonna say it. If I'm thinking it, I'm gonna say it. I'm that type of person. I've always been that type of person, you know.
Another important track is Guilty Conscience, recorded with Dr. Dre.
Shave your legs with Renee's razor blades.
Yeah, but if it all goes through like it's supposed to.
The connection with Dr. Dre would be much stronger than just one joint track. Anyway, we'll talk about that a bit later.
The song Guilty Conscience, it was 3 instances of somebody about to do something bad, and this is what was going through their mind when they was about to do this. You know what I'm saying? There's the good half of you and there's the bad half of you. It's a concept song, but Timothy White didn't see the concept behind it and obviously got offended because he probably really thinks that way. You know what I'm saying? That's his guilty conscience. He really thinks that way and wants to claim all of this righteousness and whatever, you know, but his guilty conscience is making him take it seriously. I think it hit a soft spot for Timothy White.
Eminem claimed that Slim Shady is just the evil thoughts that come into his head. So, in his opinion, many songs were funny, but the humor there was special, cruel, painful, and often over the line. That's how Slim Shady established himself in the minds of listeners as an ambassador of chaos, recklessness, and complete impunity in words. In the My Name Is video, he looked like the host of his own crazy TV show, The Slim Shady Show. He changed clothes, tried on different costumes, mocked TV culture and celebrities as if showing this character can be anyone.
My name is what? My name is Slim Shady.
In role model, he portrayed the worst possible example to follow. In The Kids, he unexpectedly took on the role of a strange teacher who seems to tell children not to use substances, but does so through frightening and absurd stories. In The Real Slim Shady, he is no longer just a character, but a virus that multiplies.
I'm sick of you little girl and boy groups, all you do is annoy me, so I have been sitting here to destroy you.
In this song, he hit out at pop culture again. Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, Will Smith, and others were getting it. But it wasn't just a desire to offend someone anymore, which we'll talk about a bit later. Before Slim Shady, Eminem was a talented but not fully realized rapper. After Shady appeared, he became an artist who had his own universe, his own language, his own humor, and his own conflict with society, and his own internal war.
By the end of the 90s, Eminem was no longer just a guy from Detroit who dreamed of rapping. He faced school battles, poverty, the failure of Infinite, the emergence of Slim Shady, early performances, and the painful feeling that life was backing him into a corner. He had much, but lacked the main thing, someone in the industry who would believe in him and risk their money. That person turned out to be Dr. Dre.
By that point, Dre was more than just a producer, he was a figure essential to the history of hip-hop. His journey began long before he met Marshall.
Dr. Dre's real name is Andre Romella Young. At first, he worked with world-class Wreckin' Crew, but his real breakthrough came when he became part of NWA, along with Ice Cube, Eazy-E, MC Ren, and DJ Yella.
It was NWA that changed the perception of rap. Their raw, direct street sound and the album Straight Outta Compton weren't just music, they were a challenge to the system. Dre was one of the main architects of that sound. Heavy beats, a dark atmosphere, a sense of the streets, and a reality you just couldn't look away from.
The police are gonna have to come and get me off your ass. That's how I'm going out.
After NWA, Dre became one of the founders of Death Row Records together with Suge Knight. There, he further cemented his status as a producer capable not just of making hits, but of creating an entire era. He contributed to the sound that defined the West Coast, from his own The Chronic to working with Snoop Dogg and other artists. But Death Row was not only a place of success, it was also a territory of conflicts, pressure, scandals, and internal warfare. At some point, Dre decided to leave and start all over again. In 1996, he founded his own label, Aftermath Entertainment. At first, things weren't going perfectly for Aftermath. Dre was already a legend, but this new stage of his career required new energy. He needed an artist who could shake up the industry, someone unexpected. And around that same time in Detroit, Marshall Mathers was trying not to drown in debt and substance abuse. As we mentioned earlier, in 1997, Eminem went to Los Angeles for the Rap Olympics. For him, it wasn't just a trip, it was almost his last chance to make it out. He delivered a powerful performance there. Among the many participants, he stood out with his delivery, speed, rhymes, and anger, but he didn't win. He took second place. But sometimes second place turns out to be more important than first. His performance caught the attention of people in the industry. Eventually, Eminem's demo tape reached Jimmy Iovine, one of the founders of Interscope Records. Iovine heard something strange and powerful in this unknown white rapper from Detroit. And Iovine realized that this material had to be shown to Dr. Dre. For Dre, the idea itself might have sounded risky. A white rapper from Detroit with no name in the mainstream, a crazy alter ego, and extremely provocative lyrics. In hip-hop, such artists were treated with suspicion. A white rapper could easily look like an outsider or a commercial gimmick, but Dr. Dre always knew how to hear talent beyond the surface. He wasn't interested in how a person looked, but what happened when they opened their mouth and started rapping. And when Dre heard Eminem's recordings, the doubts quickly vanished.
Okay, so fast forward to, holy shit, I'm in the Interscope office. This is Jimmy Iovine. Holy shit, Dr. Dre just walked in.
Eminem comes in this bright yellow fucking sweatsuit. Hoodie, pants, everything. It's bright fucking yellow.
I'm looking at Dre like, dude, I see you on TV all the time. You're one of my biggest influences ever.
I think this shit is fucking incredible and I would love to work with you.
Dre, you do a lot of recording here?
Yeah, most of the recording is done here. Nothing more comfortable than home.
I was like, man, listen, I put this sample together. Tell me if you like it. And I hit the drum machine and maybe 2 or 3 seconds went by and he just went, hi, my name is...
That's how My Name Is was born, a song that turned an unknown underground rapper into a national sensation. The importance of this moment is hard to overstate. Before meeting Dre, Eminem already had the skills, the anger, and the character, but Dre gave it all form, sound, and scale. My Name Is was full of harsh mockery of pop culture figures. It mentioned, among others, 9 Inch Nails and the Spice Girls, Pamela Anderson, Usher, and the duo Criss Cross. Also in one track, Eminem managed to fit a ton of offensive jabs at his own mother and vulgarities, like showing his genitals to a bartender, then sticking them in a tip jar. According to the rapper himself, the aggression and attacks in his tracks were entirely sincere. But looking back at it now, he can no longer say why he was so angry.
Though, on the other hand, Eminem always claimed that he understood when and what he needed to write.
I don't think I'm stupid. I'm not stupid. Like I know when a song has a certain particular sound and sounds like, well, maybe this could possibly be a radio record, or when I'm going, fuck shit ass, you know what I'm saying? And I know this will never go to radio. But at the same time, if a song starts heading that way, because a lot of times I may even think certain things when I'm writing it, like maybe what person this might connect with. You know what I'm saying? Like, and who I might connect with this song, but
Because of homophobic remarks, Eminem had a conflict with Labi Siffre, whose song is sampled in the chorus. Being openly gay, he protested against the lines about an attempted assault on the lyrical hero by an English teacher. It should be noted that Eminem and Dre tried to come up with a different beat for the track, but in the end the rapper gave in and slightly changed the lyrics. Notably, according to Marshall, all the proceeds from his first hit went to Siffre. Mathers didn't get a single dollar from the song. On the very first day of working together, Marshall and Dre recorded not only the My Name Is demo, but also sketched out a couple more tracks. The recording of the Slim Shady LP went quickly. The producer would let Mathers listen to music and he would either freestyle to it or find lyrics he'd already written. I had rhymes for every one of his beats, Marshall recalled. Dre also appeared on the album, rapping with Eminem on the track Guilty Conscience, which we've already mentioned, where the rappers essentially played out a dialogue between a demon and a guardian angel. The first, with the voice of Slim Shady, urged the lyrical heroes to rob stores and commit assault. The second man tried to prevent the crime, Vadamati. But on the question of whether a cheating wife should be killed, both of them were in agreement.
You take advantage of her. She's passed out.
It's easy. Just cut these lights out. That's how.
And here is Dre's own opinion on why he considers Eminem the greatest rapper of all time.
That's the first thing that happened. Hi, my name is. I put the beat on and he just did that right away.
No.
And
So hang on, he goes in a studio, you go,
no,
oh,
we're in the studio and I hit play on it. Doom, doom, and he just fast. No bull. And then we went from there. And that was the beginning of this relationship. And I think he's the best MC ever.
I mean, I
Point blank, period. Of course, there are going to be arguments about that because he's a white guy. You know, I don't think anyone that's rapping can touch Eminem on that microphone.
When the album was almost finished, Dre told Marshall that he should find himself a distinctive look. According to Eminem, he doesn't remember very well how he got the idea to bleach his hair. He was supposedly walking the streets under the influence, went into a store in an almost unconscious state, bought hydrogen peroxide, and woke up the next morning with a new look.
He showed up at the studio in baggy pants and an oversized white t-shirt. When Dre saw him, he announced that the artist had found his style.
With the completion of the recording, the artists began bickering with the label manager over certain lines in the song's Role Model and My Name Is.
At Interscope, there were doubts about whether they really needed someone so provocative. Dre and I went to a meeting with management. This scene is recreated in the video for The Way I Am, where I sit down at the table in front of a bunch of people and then start throwing papers and all sorts of things. In reality, it wasn't that dramatic, but I was trying to defend myself.
Whatever you say I am. If I wasn't, then why would I say I am?
The Slim Shady LP was released in February of '99 and became one of the most popular records of the year. In its first week of sales, it reached number 2 on the Billboard 200 chart, second only to the track Fan Mail. The release stayed on the charts for almost 2 years, and by April, the album had already gone platinum, selling over 1 million copies.
Homophobic jokes, the glorification of explicit violence with a casual comedic delivery served as Eminem's bridge from the underground to mass culture. In less than a year, the artist became a national star. It is virtually the same thing that happens today with TikTok stars who become world famous in a matter of months. In the late 90s, this was nearly impossible to imagine, but Eminem managed to achieve the impossible here too.
After the super successful The Slim Shady LP, their partnership only grew stronger. In the year 2000, the Marshall Mathers LP was released, which became one of the most sensational and fastest-selling rap albums in US history. Eminem was no longer just shocking the public. He became the main voice of scandal, pain, and rage at the start of the 2000s. In 2002, The Eminem Show was released. This album showed that Marshall was capable of being more than just Slim Shady, more than just a provocateur, and more than just Dr. Dre's artist. He became a true superstar, the creator of his own universe, a person who could combine hits, personal confessions, social critique, and flawless technique.
Their bond over time became more than just a producer-artist relationship, Ibiya. It was a partnership built on mutual respect. Dre gave Eminem a chance, and Eminem helped Aftermath ascend to a new level. Later, Eminem himself would become for other artists what Dre was for him, a person who can spot talent and bring it into the big leagues. That is how, for example, the story with 50 Cent would later emerge, where Dre and Eminem together would play the role of mentors. But more on that a bit later.
During that same period, Eminem recorded Lose Yourself for the movie 8 Mile. The song earned him an Oscar for Best Original Song, and became one of the main anthems of his career. You could say the puzzle of Eminem's success is mainly his alter ego, specifically Slim Shady, his friends, specifically Dr. Dre, and of course the movie 8 Mile. Without this film, Eminem's career would have turned out quite differently.
Marshall did not want to star in a movie about Eminem. Director Curtis Hanson later recalled that Eminem told him from the start he was not interested in making a typical movie about Eminem. He wanted to be an actor in a good movie. 8 Mile was not supposed to be a long music video for Eminem.
Brian Grazer recalled that during their first meeting, Marshall could sit in stony silence for several minutes, but his main fear was clear. He was afraid of being fake. Grazer admitted that he was afraid of the same thing. Eminem also didn't want to look like a clown. Every time the rapper felt he didn't look convincing enough, he would take notes and bring them to Curtis Hanson. But for a while, he couldn't even watch movies properly. He constantly noticed editing mistakes, inconsistencies, wrinkles on clothes, details that changed from shot to shot. He drove himself crazy with this perfectionism.
Later, after Hanson's death in 2016, Eminem would say that he believed in him and their crazy idea to make a movie about rap battles in Detroit. According to Marshall, it was Hanson who actually turned him into an actor for 8 Mile.
I just wanted to do one movie, just true and authentic, and just to capture, like, I felt like where I grew up and how I grew up, my story and the things that I saw was so interesting. I feel like 8 Mile is not just the movie, I'm talking about 8 Mile Road, period, and what it means symbolically and everything. To me, like, is a story that I wanted to just get across to the world, because I know there's, in every city, every state has, you know, what separates the city from the suburbs, you know, majority, statistically, what separates black from white. And, you know, usually it's literally just one road. And there's 8 Mile, there's one median in the middle of the road that separates city from suburb.
And one of the key decisions was to film in Detroit, not in Canada where they could have saved money, but in the state of Michigan, where the film production infrastructure is not that developed.
The film's title refers to 8 Mile Road, a road that has historically divided Detroit and its suburbs. For Eminem, it was more than just a geographic name. He explained that, especially during his childhood, 8 Mile was also a color line, a boundary that literally separated black people from white people.
Eminem said that if you do not listen to rap, if you are older or just not into it, you might not care. But if you are a rapper and grew up on the Detroit side of 8 Mile, it means a lot to you.
A bit about the plot. In 8 Mile, Eminem plays Jimmy B. Rabbit Smith Jr., a young working-class rapper who lives with his mother in a trailer, works at a factory, takes care of his little sister, endures squalor, humiliation, personal failures, and tries to make it through rap battles.
The movie is not a direct autobiography of Eminem, but it is clearly built on his experience. It is not a documentary story of Marshall Mathers, but there is too much of his truth in it. Poverty, Detroit, battles, stage fright, anger, a white guy in a predominantly black rap environment, the desire to get out, and the constant feeling that any mistake could be the end. The main conflict of the film is not just a guy wanting to be a rapper. It is a story about a man who must stop running away from his own biography. In the final battle, Rabbit wins not because he comes up with the dirtiest insult. He wins because he says everything about himself beforehand that they could use to humiliate him. He takes the weapon from his opponent.
That wasn't in the movie. Eminem is just such a brilliant dude. We're on set one day, and he's like, yo, it don't make sense that we beefing. I was like, right? He was like, I need something, like, on you. So we're talking. We talked for like 2 hours, like chilling. I'm like, all right, man, I'll see you later. The next day we're shooting a battle scene. And that's why I'm standing there like, you're talking about me. You're not talking about Clarence.
But I know something about you. You went to Cranbrook. That's a private school.
That has nothing to do with the character. You're an asshole.
Throughout his career, Marshall did much the same. He spoke of his poverty, his mother, addiction, family issues, his white skin, personal failures, and his inner dirt before others could use it against him.
There were about 6 weeks of rehearsals before filming began. Eminem, who had previously appeared in intense music videos but had no real acting experience, had to learn how to exist on screen, not as Slim Shady, not as a superstar, but as a real person.
And they gathered actors around him who helped the film avoid becoming fake.
Makey Pfeiffer played Future, a friend and the host of The Battles, a character inspired by Eminem's real-life friend, Proof. Interestingly, Pfeiffer initially didn't want to take part. According to him, when he first heard about the project, it seemed like it might be too cliched. Besides, he was supposed to start working on another TV series. But then he read Scott Silver's script and realized that the film had grit and character. After that, he was brought to Detroit. He met Eminem, they started talking, and everything fell into place.
For Eminem's story, this is a particularly touching detail. Future in the movie was inspired by Proof, a man who in real life played a huge role in Marshall's development. It was Proof who supported him in Detroit, helped in the battle scene, was his close friend and a member of D12.
At the same time, Proof himself also appeared in 8 Mile. He played Lil Tick, the first MC Jimmy Battles in the film.
4 years after the film's release, in 2006, Proof would die in a shootout.
He was killed by 4 shots to the head and chest by a security guard named Mario at the Triple C Club on 8 Mile Road in Detroit, after Proof shot Mario's cousin, Keith Bender Jr. On April 19, 2006, Proof's funeral was held at the Fellowship Chapel in Detroit, attended by Eminem, 50 Cent, and many others.
Eminem wrote 2 songs about Proof's death called Going Through Changes and You're Never Over, which were on the album Recovery.
Somewhere in me deep down, there's something in me he found that made him believe in me. Now no one can...
And here's what Eminem himself said about his friend.
Proof. That's how Proof was to me. Yeah, man, he was a godsend to me because I know that I would not have made it without knowing him, because he gave me, he co-signed for me when I went to the shop, when I went to Ebony Show, because he co-signed for me everywhere I went, and people respected him. His name meant something because they respected him, because...
Kim Basinger played Jimmy's mother, Stephanie. This role was not an easy one for her. A working-class woman with a hard life, not always likable, not always able to put her children first. There is absolutely no gloss in the film. Even the trailer park where Rabbit lives became a tourist attraction after the film's release, although the actual trailer was just a set brought in for filming. The manager of Continental Mobile Village later joked that people would come and ask where that very trailer was. And she didn't know what to tell them. Where do they even put things like that? Maybe in a museum? The film also featured Brittany Murphy, who played Alex. There was noticeable chemistry between her and Eminem on screen, which later sparked rumors that there was something between them off set as well.
They never explicitly confirmed a romantic relationship, but always spoke warmly of each other. Following Murphy's sudden and tragic passing in 2009, Eminem remarked that they were once very close and that she was an incredibly good person. 8 Mile was released in 2002, during a time when Eminem was already at the very top of his career. That same year, The Eminem Show was released, cementing his superstar status.
But the film did something special with his image. It showed the wider audience not just Slim Shady, not just the controversial rapper, but Marshall as a person with a story.
If before many thought Eminem was just a provocateur, 8 Mile explained where it all came from. The film went down in history largely thanks to the soundtrack.
Lose Yourself. The song was released in 2002 and became Eminem's first #1 single on the Billboard Hot 100, staying at the top for 12 consecutive weeks. It also topped the charts in 19 other countries. In the US, the track spent 16 weeks in the top 10 and 23 weeks in the top 50, and later received Diamond certification. By 2018, sales in the US had reached 10 million copies. On a global scale, the song became one of the most recognizable rap singles of the 21st century.
Critics also accepted it almost unanimously. Many called Lose Yourself one of Eminem's best works and, over time, one of the greatest hip-hop songs in history. It's all the more interesting that it's just a part of the movie. Eminem wrote music for the film right during the shooting. He recalled that if he wasn't rehearsing or learning lines, he was writing. He literally had a pen in his hand all the time. Yeah, just like in that very music video.
Work on Lose Yourself began back in September 2001 and took about a year. Alongside Eminem, his longtime collaborator and producer Jeff Bass from Bass Brothers, the company that supported him at the very beginning of his career, as well as Luis Resto, worked on the track. Bass later recalled that the musical foundation appeared before the lyrics, and it immediately had a special feeling to it.
The guitar played a special role in the sound. For a rap track of that time, Lose Yourself had an unusual rock energy, a thick guitar riff, tense drums, an almost athletic battle pulse. Initially, the choruses were even more rock-oriented with distorted guitars, but later they were replaced with keyboards.
What was the birth of this song?
Really, the birth of the song was a guitar line that I came up with, and I played it against the drum beat the whole time with this 4-bar guitar part that
There's
I
no
played.
pause on that riff?
Zero. Never leaves the song. So I was messing around with the piano intro that we all know.
Yeah.
That's me. We didn't know what it was. It's just, all we knew is that, wow, that really feels good. We used to take the little guitar part and listen to it and go, what are we going to do with this thing? It wasn't until getting the script for 8 Mile.
That is why the song became not just a hit, but a motivational anthem. It began to be used by athletes, teams, fans, and stadiums. It played before matches, races, and entrances to the arena. It conveyed the feeling of that moment when you have one chance and you either seize it or lose it forever. Watch how former US President Barack Obama recites Marshall's lines.
I gotta say, you know, I have done a lot of rallies, so I don't usually get nervous. But I was feeling some kind of way following Eminem. I mean, I notice my palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy, vomit on my sweater already, mom's spaghetti. I'm nervous, but on the surface I look calm and ready.
The lyrics of Lose Yourself perfectly connected Rabbit and Eminem. Formally, it's a song from the perspective of the film's hero, but in reality, the whole world heard Marshall's own story in it, a poor guy from Detroit standing before a chance to break out and realizing there might not be a second try. According to the sound engineer, Eminem recorded the song in a portable studio right on the film set during a break. Moreover, each verse was recorded in a single take. The sheet on which he wrote the lyrics actually appears in the film itself, in the scene where the character is riding on the bus. This is a rare case where the process of creating a song is literally woven into the fabric of the film.
But the track's main historical achievement was the Oscar. For hip-hop, it was a symbolic moment. A genre once considered mere street noise, a marginal culture, and a temporary phenomenon was finally recognized and honored by the most conservative film academy.
The irony is that Eminem himself did not attend the 2003 ceremony. He later explained that he had already performed the song at the Grammys, where he won Best Rap Song and Best Rap Solo Performance, and also didn't think he would actually win at the Oscars. Moreover, the ABC television channel was planning to censor the song because of its language, and Marshall clearly didn't like that.
Only in 2020 did he make an unexpected appearance at the Oscars to perform Lose Yourself. It was a belated return to a moment he had originally missed nearly 2 decades earlier. The audience greeted his performance with delight, and it became clear the song hasn't aged.
Later, Lose Yourself returned to the charts again, for example after Eminem's performance at the Super Bowl in 2022. This shows just how deeply the track has become embedded in the culture. It has long since existed separately from both the film and a specific period in Eminem's career. The song, by the way, spawned many memes and jokes. One of them went too far. In 2021, a diner called Mom's Spaghetti opened in Detroit. Its name is a reference to the lyrics from Lose Yourself. That is the part where the protagonist gets so nervous before going on stage that he throws up, and remnants of his mom's spaghetti stick to his clothes. But without 8 Mile, this song wouldn't exist in this form. The movie gave Eminem the chance to do what didn't always work through Slim Shady. He showed himself without the caricature mask. Yes, he already had serious personal tracks in music, but his public image still often boiled down to a crazy blonde who insults celebrities and shocks parents. 8 Mile allowed the audience to see the source of that anger.
After 8 Mile and Lose Yourself, Eminem found himself in a position he'd never even dreamed of. He was no longer just a respected MC from Detroit. He became one of the biggest artists on the planet. His albums were selling millions of copies. His name was everywhere. MTV, radio, movies, award shows, the news, courtrooms, parenting scandals, and political debates. But the higher Marshall Mathers rose, the more intense the pressure became. People started knocking on his door. Fans were trying to find his house. Complete strangers felt like they knew him personally. It was from this strange feeling that Stan was born, a song not just about fan obsession, but about an artist's fear of his own fame.
The plot of the track is a tragic story about an obsessed fan named Stanley Mitchell who writes letters to the rapper Eminem demanding attention. Due to the lack of responses, Stan's mental state deteriorates, which leads to suicide. He drives his car off a bridge along with his pregnant girlfriend. In the end, Eminem writes a reply, but it's already too late.
I hope you know I ripped all of your pictures off the wall. I love you, Slim. We could have been...
For Eminem, having fans was a dream come true, but that dream turned out to be terrifying and surreal. He suddenly realized he couldn't just be switched off anymore. His public image now had a life of its own. People weren't just debating his music, but his mother, wife, daughter, addiction, race, past, and every single move he made. And at that point, substances began to take a deeper hold on Marshall's life. At first, it didn't seem like a disaster. He didn't start with hard drugs. His addiction grew from the world of prescription meds, the very pills that many people think are harmless.
Eminem recalled that substances became a part of his life only after he signed contracts with record labels.
When he first arrived in Los Angeles, he and his friends would drive across the Mexican border to Tijuana to get pills. This went on until one day, right in front of them at the border, another person was thrown to the ground and pills were pulled out of his pockets.
Marshall was also loaded with drugs back then. If he'd been caught, his career could have ended before it even took off. The Slim Shady LP might never have happened, but even that incident wasn't a real wake-up call for him. He later admitted the problem was that he just really loved getting high, and once the money started coming in, he could afford even more. Initially, it was about exhaustion, touring, the studio, interviews, shows, flights, insomnia, constant stress. Someone gives you a pill to fall asleep faster, then another to relax, then another for anxiety, then a third because you can't function normally without it. It kept getting worse and worse until it led to an overdose that nearly killed him.
It took a long time for my brain to start working again.
Yeah, I mean, you literally were coming off of, an overdose, and, they had to sort of stabilize you with a few medications, and some of them took you a minute to adjust to. Let's just leave it at that, right? So you're learning how to rap again, almost literally, right? Because it's the first time probably you were creating without having substances in your body in however many years, right?
Yeah. Didn't you ask the doctors when I first started rapping again and sent it to you? Didn't you say, like, I just want to make sure he doesn't have brain damage?
Yeah, I thought you might have some permanent problems.
While Eminem was on top on the outside, he was slowly disappearing on the inside. He could work, record, perform, get into beefs, release music, and simultaneously lose more and more control.
For a while, he managed to hide what was happening, but then the lapses became noticeable. He was seen in an incoherent state in public. This was becoming commonplace.
One of those moments happened during an appearance on 106 in Park with 50 Cent and G-Unit while performing You Don't Know. The host asked Eminem a question, but he couldn't understand a single word. He heard the speech, saw the people, was on camera, but his brain wasn't processing any of it. 50 Cent had to cover for him and answer on his behalf.
I actually need him to make my music. So me and 50 have 3 songs together. There's 3 songs together, and we have, we're all over the album, all over it.
Marshall later explained that by then he'd started taking sleeping pills, which he called an eraser for the brain. The addiction began to reflect in his music as well. Encore, released in 2004, became a painful point in Eminem's discography. He didn't deny the album sold well, but for him, sales were never the most important thing. Quality and how fans and critics perceived the record mattered much more.
The Encore could have been completely different. He had songs like We as Americans, Love You More, Bully, and Evil Deeds, material he felt would bring the album closer to the Eminem show. But some of the tracks leaked online, and he had to rebuild the album almost from scratch.
And by that point, the addiction was intensifying. He was in a completely different state of mind, significantly more chaotic, far more indifferent, and much more goofy. That's how songs like Ass Like That, Big Weenie, and Rain Man came about. He wrote them quickly while high, and at the time, he thought they were funny.
I go to the movies and sit down with my popcorn and fully sing.
For the first time, Marshall felt acutely that his control over his own career was starting to slip.
Then Proof was murdered. Proof was not just a colleague. He was part of Eminem's Detroit past, a link to the time when Eminem was still battling, searching for himself, doubting, and trying to survive. His death hit Marshall so hard that his addiction reached a new level. Eminem recalled that after Proof's murder, he would lie at home, stare at the ceiling, and keep taking pills.
Then, another overdose happened. A few months after Proof's death, Marshall tried to go to the bathroom, and all he remembered was falling. His next memory, he woke up in the hospital, covered in tubes, unable to speak, not knowing where he was or what had happened. Later, he said that if he had been taken to the hospital 2 hours later, he could have died. His organs were already failing. Doctors weren't sure he'd survive, but even after that, he relapsed again, just a month after being discharged.
And it was just like this feeling of, didn't feel any pain. It just kind of numbed things.
At that point in time, I didn't know where I wanted to be. I didn't know what I was going to do next. These are the thoughts in my head. Like, you know what I mean? I'm a drug addict rapper.
You almost died.
Definitely.
How close do you think you were to dying?
I got to the hospital about 2 hours later. I would have died. My organs, everything, my kidneys, everything were failing. They didn't think I was going to make it.
The detox was really tough. He said he didn't sleep for 3 weeks straight, literally 24 hours a day. He had to relearn basic things all the way to normal speech and walking. But in that process, for the first time, he began to realize he could be happy without substances.
I had to relearn how to walk, talk, and for the most part had to relearn how to rap again. My writing had gotten terrible.
What did it feel like when it started to work again?
When I started to get it back, it was exciting because I felt it. It would be in conversations, just having conversations with people, or the TV. Like every phrase that someone said on TV, oh, you said the word duh, it was hitting me really fast.
Post-rehab, he hit 230 pounds, so Eminem took up running. It helped him lose weight and sleep without pills, eventually becoming a new, healthier addiction.
Another part was his family. Though the relationship with his first wife is a whole other story, full of drama.
Their relationship remained cyclical, breaking up, reuniting, fighting, and reconciling. In 1995, their daughter Haley Jade was born. For Eminem, this became a turning point. He said that fatherhood became a real motivator for his growth.
When success finally arrived, it didn't heal his relationship with Kim. On the contrary, it exposed their problems to the whole world. Eminem turned personal pain into music and often did so in an extremely brutal way. We've already mentioned the track 97 Bonnie and Clyde, where Eminem rapped about killing Kim. The song Kim from the Marshall Mathers LP was even more intense. It's one of the darkest tracks in Eminem's catalog, emotional, furious, theatrical, yet incredibly violent. It also tells the story of Kim's murder.
But we was kids then, Kim! I was only 18! That was years ago!
The woman later said that she felt humiliated, especially after Eminem performed the song on stage, using theatrical elements related to the image of his wife.
In the year 2000, after one such episode, she went through a severe crisis and tried to take her own life.
I had went with my sister and some friends and had asked him before we went to the show if he was going to perform that song, and he said no. He said no because I know that you're going to be there and I wouldn't do that to you. And I was there in the middle section on the main floor, and sure enough, he decided to do that song and not only perform the song but use blow-up dolls as to reenact like me being choked and just disrespectful things to the blow-up doll, and then threw the doll into the crowd. Like, for him to do that in front of thousands upon thousands of people, knowing that I'm out there and just watching everybody else sing the words and laughing and jumping around in like approval of, just, I couldn't take it. I don't know. That's complete spite. I mean, especially knowing that you're going to be sitting, you know, in the front row right there. And I immediately left after that. You know, I got into a car accident on the way home. I was so upset. And I made it home, and I could not gather my senses. And I went upstairs in my bathroom and I slit my wrist and ended up in the hospital.
After that, the legal proceedings began. Eminem filed for divorce and sought joint custody of Haley. Kim filed a defamation lawsuit over the songs and performances, demanding substantial compensation. Later, they settled the dispute, tried to reconcile, and then divorced again. Their first divorce was finalized in 2001.
In the mid-2000s, they got back together again. By that time, there were more children in the family.
Eminem took care not only of Haley, but also of Alena, the daughter of Kim's sister, who had serious substance abuse problems. Later, he also adopted Stevie, Kim's child from another relationship. In addition, he became the guardian of his younger brother Nathan. In 2006, Eminem and Kim got married for the second time. The wedding was beautiful, with family, friends and children, but the marriage lasted only a few months. Already in April, Marshall filed for divorce again, and by the end of the year it was finalized.
His history with Kim became one of the most painful threads of his life. In the early years, he attacked her in songs with almost no restraint. Later, having matured and overcome addiction, he began to see it differently. In the track Bad Husband, he apologized to her, admitting he caused more pain than he could ever realize.
Words that we said that we didn't mean, the ones that we meant that we didn't say, the ones that we thought that we should have.
Kim herself was no angel either. In the early 2000s, her name appeared several times in the crime reports. The most notable incident happened in 2003, when Kim was arrested after the police found substances on her. This case led to court supervision and probation, and later to problems due to violating the terms of her probation. In 2004, she was sent to rehab in connection with the substance possession case. During this period, Eminem essentially took care of the children, and Kim herself later admitted that she was grateful to him for that. Later, Kim experienced other crises as well, including an incident in 2015 when, by her own admission, she drank, took pills, and deliberately crashed her car into a pole. She described this incident not just as an accident, but as a suicide attempt.
They say the relationship with a wife depends heavily on the relationship with the mother. This is true for Eminem in every sense. Eminem's conflict with his mother became one of the most famous and public family wars in rap history. In interviews and songs, he accused his mother of pill abuse, emotional instability, cruelty, and manipulation. Debbie denied all of it.
In 1999, she filed a defamation lawsuit against him, demanding millions of dollars. In the end, the court awarded her a much smaller amount, and after legal fees, she was left with very little. But the very fact of a lawsuit between mother and son became a symbol of how far their war had gone.
Eminem turned this pain into music. In My Name Is, he provocatively mentioned his mother. In Cleaning Out My Closet, he delivered one of his harshest lyrics about her, where a son's anger sounded almost like a sentence.
Sorry, mama, I never meant to hurt you.
Eminem claimed that his mother failed to fulfill her parental duties and was cruel and neglectful toward him. The rapper accused his mother of substance abuse, which, according to him, affected her behavior. In his songs, he asserted that his mother gave him prescription drugs when he was a child. Marshall also hinted that she might have suffered from Munchausen syndrome.
And it really pisses me off that I can't talk about it.
But you're talking about on a record, you know?
There's a difference between artistic expression and things I say on a record and things that I say publicly that I just recently found out. So it's kind of, you know, it gets under my skin a little bit that I can't say things and make comments, you know, because I want to. Believe me, I want to. But, you know, I just keep quiet for right now because I'm paying up.
Debbie denied all the accusations against her.
Says you were neglectful.
No.
Pill popping.
No.
Well,
later, she published her own book, My Son Marshall, My Son Eminem, where she shared her version of their relationship. She wrote that deep down she believes Marshall still loves her, he's just confused. These words sounded like an attempt to regain not only her reputation, but also her son. And over time, Eminem's stance began to change. In 2009, on 106 & Park, he said something important. In the end, she's his mother, and he loves her because she's his mother, even if they barely speak.
One of the things that I said and that I realized is, I mean, at the end of the day, she's my mother, and I love her because she's my mother. I mean, even though we don't really speak, you know what I mean? She is my mother. I do love her, and I think I got a better understanding of what she was going through or what she may be going through. You know what I mean? Now that when I see myself and how I actually became, you know what I mean? I think there's a little compassion factor that goes with that.
In 2013, he released Headlights, a song that was meant to reconcile them.
Yes, he had trouble keeping up with every address, but I'd have flipped every mattress, every rockin'.
Debbie later publicly congratulated him on his induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2022. She said she loves him, is proud of him, and knew he would make it this far. But it remained unclear until the end whether they truly managed to reconcile. In 2024, Debbie Nelson died from complications related to lung cancer.
Perhaps Marshall tried to compensate in his children for what he didn't get from his mother. His daughter Haley became Eminem's main motivation to live and work. He said many times that he does everything for her. On the other hand, his fame made Haley's childhood public. Her name was in songs, fans, journalists, and critics talked about her. It couldn't help but be nerve-wracking. Eminem understood this. It was reflected in his songs as well. The song Mockingbird is especially important because there Marshall speaks to his children almost without a mask. He explains the chaos of the past in simple words, why they moved, why the parents fought, why mom and dad couldn't keep the family together.
To be this way, your mother and me, but things have got so bad between us, I don't see us ever being sick.
When I'm Gone develops this theme even further. There, the image of a daughter appears, reproaching him for his constant absence.
Every time you hear the sound of my voice, just know that I'm looking down on you smiling.
This was the main paradox of Eminem's success. He became famous to save his loved ones from poverty. But fame brought new threats, addiction, lawsuits, public humiliation, paparazzi, broken marriages, pressure, insomnia, fan obsession, the inability to be an ordinary person. He wanted respect as an MC, but gained worldwide fame.
It might seem that Eminem feuded exclusively with women, and with those closest to him, his wife and mother. But no, Eminem was a well-known lover of beefs. Sometimes he destroyed opponents so thoroughly they lost their careers, most often when they dared to touch his family. Over his decades-long career, Eminem has managed to clash with almost every type of public figure. Rappers, pop stars, rock musicians, journalists, magazine editors, TV hosts, and even former colleagues who moved into podcasting. If you're around 25, you probably remember Marshall's recent, one might say, fleeting conflicts with the new school. For example, in 2020, Lil Pump insulted Eminem during a live stream.
Fuck Eminem, you is lame as hell, ain't nobody listening to you.
Eminem refrained from a social media beef. He waited a while and simply dissed Pump on the track The Ringer, where he just accused him of biting Lil Wayne.
Lil Pump, Lil Xan, imitate Lil Wayne. I should aim at everybody in the game, pick a name.
Tekashi also tried to troll Eminem by posting videos like these to Marshall's famous beat.
Right when you ain't diss me, I'm a lyrical legend, I know they miss me. All you mumble rap kids, colorful hair, can't compare to the lyrical phenomenon that's right here.
In the end, 6ix9ine received only one humiliating line in response.
She says I am trash, but she listens to Tekashi. Bitch, you lost me, yeah.
One of the early conflicts that went beyond the rap scene was the story with Christina Aguilera. In the late 90s, Eminem tried to hide his marriage to Kim, but Aguilera mentioned it during an MTV special while also talking about domestic violence.
She picked one of my videos.
So I picked Eminem. My name is.
Yeah, he's cute, but isn't he married though?
I heard he's married now.
Eminem?
And then she said, yeah, and you know, doesn't he have a song about killing his baby's mother?
The girl that he talks about killing on his record, actually.
No, you didn't just say that.
Out there, you've got to pull the plug. I mean, don't let a guy disrespect you.
And I always tell my friends, if you're against domestic, you know, I'm so against domestic violence, and if you're in an abusive relationship, and I was like, why did she just pick my video if she's picking it apart?
The response came in The Real Slim Shady, where he crudely mocked the singer and linked her name to other men M claimed she'd been with.
So I could sit next to Carson Daly and Fred Durst and hear them argue over who she gave to first.
Aguilera denied such rumors, and her representatives called Eminem's words offensive and untrue. A response track emerged around the conflict, but a real musical war never happened. Their audiences and genres were just too different.
In the end, the tension gradually faded, and their backstage meeting at the 2002 MTV VMAs became a symbolic finale where, according to reports, they hugged. Much closer to Marshall's roots was his conflict with Cage, a representative of underground rap. Before the Slim Shady LP was released, Cage claimed that Eminem had copied his style, image, and even certain elements of his delivery.
Eminem responded quickly. He mentioned Cage in role model, then continued to take shots at him in drastic measures and freestyles.
Scrap, back the fuck up with Mr. Burry. Hurry, I'm trying to pick up Cage's sister early. It's 8 o'clock.
Cage replied with the track and so kitties and a few more jabs, but this beef proved to be unequal in scale. While Cage remained an underground figure, Eminem was rapidly becoming a global star. His career was moving at such a breakneck pace that the conflict eventually faded away amidst much louder events and personal troubles.
The conflict with Everlast started over almost nothing. According to one version, the former House of Pain member was offended because Eminem ignored him backstage at a concert in '99.
Soon, Everlast took a shot at Eminem and his daughter Hailey in the Eardrums pop remix by Dilated Peoples. For Marshall, this was no longer just a jab at him. Family was involved again, specifically his daughter, which in his conflicts was almost always the point of no return.
Cock my hammer, spit a comment like Haley, a buck of 380 on ones that act shady.
Eminem responded quite harshly. In I Remember, he mocked Everlast's age, his career, and even his health problems.
And I remember when you had your first heart attack.
This beef quickly died down. Today, you can't compare the careers of these two artists, but Everlast is sure this beef didn't hurt him.
You had a famous beef with Eminem.
Like, we had our moment. The dude never ever banned me from this station like he's done to a lot of people. It was kind of just a misunderstanding.
They asked me like, yo, Em heard this record and he's just curious if you dissed him. My answer literally was like, well, what if I say yeah? Well, you know he's gonna come at you. I was like, yeah, okay, whatever.
And he caught it, said something back, like he was a sharp dude.
Heart attack is stroke.
A separate Detroit story was the conflict with the group Insane Clown Posse.
It began with an ad for a party celebrating the release of the Slim Shady EP, where Eminem mentioned a possible appearance by ICP without getting their clear consent. The members of the duo took this as disrespect, and a sharp response from a member named Violent J offended Marshall. What could have remained a minor misunderstanding on the local scene quickly turned into an exchange of diss tracks.
Eminem mentioned ICP in Get You Mad, Till Hell Freezes Over, Marshall Mathers, and other tracks.
I woke up with my face painted, spaced out like sci-fi TV. Fuck ICP, buy my CD.
ICP responded with a parody called Slim Anus, mocking his relationship with Dr. Dre and trying to portray him as an artist dependent on someone else's patronage.
Backstreet Boy, I wanna impregnate. Dr. Dre said,
Slim Shady, you a cutie.
But unlike many other beefs, this conflict ended peacefully. In 2005, Proof helped settle the feud by arranging a meeting between the rival camps. Here's how Violent J remembers this conflict.
So what was that like? How serious, because you guys are in the same city. Each of you guys, I'm sure, are wrapped up with some serious guys. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
So
it wasn't, like I always tell people, the problem wasn't us and Eminem, it was our camps. You know what I'm saying? Running into each other. That was the problem.
It was like almost like the entourages kept.
That's what I'm saying. You know,
throwing fire on the flames.
Our guys go all out, juggalo everywhere. You know,
right.
I mean, psychopathic everywhere. You know, and yeah, man. You know, that was what was stale. But man, like, you know, the thing is, what was the point I was gonna say? You could go to, like, back then, I could go to Eminem show, right? And wear ICP shit. Would a kid get beat up, you know what I'm saying, at an Eminem concert?
No.
And if he had ICP shit.
Other way around, though, yes.
That's what I'm saying.
If somebody wore an Eminem hoodie to an
that's
ICP
an arena.
show, yeah.
That's an arena, right? We're in a small club, you know.
Right. If it's the other way around, don't wear a fucking D12
you know
hoodie to
yeah.
the ICP show.
But you know, thankfully everything's cool, you know. And I remember Proof squashing the beef. You know,
he seemed like he was a peacekeeper for a lot of.
He was so dope for coming over and squashing the beef, man. Rest in peace, Proof.
In 2003, Eminem got involved in one of the longest yet nonetheless successful conflicts of his career. The Source magazine, co-owned by rapper Benzino, gave the Marshall Mathers LP album 2 out of 5 microphones that year. As a result, Eminem's longest-running beef broke out, involving several diss tracks from both sides. Benzino's most notable diss is Pull Your Skirt Up, in which he calls Marshall the 2003 version of Vanilla Ice and claims he launched his career in '98 with a magazine article about unrecognized talents.
2003 Vanilla Ice, how you playing it? If you ask me, you really ain't that nice, you overrated.
Later, the rapper would go so far as to threaten his daughter Haley and dig up the demo Foolish Pride, in which a 15-year-old Eminem raps offensive lines about black women. The Source even released an entire issue dedicated to this song.
Sometimes mixed, but black girls only want your money cause of dumb chicks.
After a couple of tracks, Eminem records Nail in the Coffin, a diss track after which Benzino's rap career goes downhill. Marshall goes after his age, his lack of hits, and his fake gangster persona.
Ray Benzino, an 83-year-old fake Pacino.
In the end, Eminem apologized for Foolish Pride and explained that he recorded the song after a breakup with a black girlfriend, venting his anger that way. He was forgiven. Benzino, however, wasn't so lucky. Not only could he not recover after Nail in the Coffin, but he also had to leave the Source in 2005. He tried to make a comeback in rap, but without success. Now he's only remembered in the comments under Eminem's new diss tracks. 2 years later, Eminem released Encore, an album built on a similar scheme to previous releases, where lyrical revelations sit alongside provocative jokes. Among other things, on Encore, Eminem rapped about politics for the first time. In the track Marsh, he criticized the then US President George Bush.
Storm, push, shove, mush, fuck Bush, until they bring our troops home, come on.
Note that Eminem's significant political statements would eventually reach their absolute peak when the artist released a full-blown diss track on Donald Trump 7 years ago. Here it is, by the way.
That's an awfully hot coffee pot. Should I drop it on Donald Trump? Probably not.
The political themes in this Eminem track were even praised by the legendary Moby, though before that, he and Marshall also had a beef.
Moby criticized Eminem for lyrics he considered misogynistic, homophobic, and harmful to young people. Eminem saw this as moralizing from someone far removed from his world, and responded with "Without Me," mocking Moby's age and image.
Worse than them little Limp Biscuit bastards and Moby, you could get stomped by Obi.
Some people really don't like me very much. Eminem being the most famous example of that. Eminem had songs about killing people and killing women and putting them in the trunk of his car. And I was like, maybe this is not setting the best example for the 13-year-olds listening to Eminem. And then he attacked me at an MTV Music Awards like 20 years ago.
In the track we showed above, Eminem also mentions Limp Bizkit. The situation with them was especially unpleasant because it didn't start with direct hostility but almost with friendship. Eminem and the members of the group were on good terms for a while, but everything changed after a conflict with Everlast. DJ Lethal, Everlast's former colleague from House of Pain, said on MTV that Everlast could beat Eminem in a fight. To Marshall, this felt like a betrayal, especially because, in his view, Limp Bizkit were on his side at first, but then backed away.
And it's talking about Limp Bizkit. And the reason that I dissed Limp Bizkit is because they're little girls. And the reason they're little girls is because we were on tour together, right? The Anger Management Tour. And this has nothing to do with Fred canceling every other show because his throat hurt.
Right.
Oh. No, I don't want people thinking it. I don't want people thinking that that's the reason that I dissed them. The reason that I dissed them is because when all the beef with Everlast was going on, right? They wanted to jump in the middle of it. They wanted to jump in it with me and take my side, right?
The response was the track Girls, where Eminem harshly attacked the band members, accusing them of being soft. He saw the situation not just as a comment about a fight, but as a breach of loyalty to him.
But now the shit is broken, you can't do nothing to fix it. So I'm telling you right now, motherfucker Limp Bizkit.
Even when Fred Durst later publicly praised Recovery, a full sense of reconciliation between the parties never emerged. Interestingly, at one point Eminem was even ready to record a feature with Limp Bizkit, but that now seems like it will never happen.
It was Eminem. Eminem came in the studio and recorded with you, remember that?
Yeah, we had bonded through an Interscope, and then we met and he hung out there and we were working together. We recorded this little thing called Turn Me Loose that leaked out on the internet. He was so good and we bonded, and so we decided to do a tour together and we did anger management together and everything.
Even Will Smith turned out to be part of this conflict map. In 1999, he actually beat Eminem at the MTV VMAs for Best Male Video, and famously noted in his speech that he didn't need to use any profanity or threats to sell records.
I never killed nobody in none of my records. I don't use no profanity in none of my records, and still I managed to get up here.
Eminem decided this was a jab at him and all artists for whom coarse language was part of honest self-expression. Later, he took a shot at Smith in Without Me, mocking his clean-cut public image.
Attention, soon as someone mentions me, here's my 10 cents, my 2 cents is free.
A conflict with Will Smith, Christina Aguilera, even with Moby. You'd think what could be stranger? And Eminem surprised everyone again here, jumping into a beef with Michael Jackson.
In 2004, Eminem released a music video for Just Lose It, where he parodied Jackson, including his legal troubles, appearance, and the famous incident when his hair caught fire during a Pepsi commercial shoot.
Like TP for my bunghole, and it's cool if you let one go. Nobody's gonna know who'd hear it.
Jackson publicly stated that he was angry and disappointed. He said he respected Eminem as an artist, but found the video inappropriate, offensive, and insensitive to him, his children, family, and the community at large.
I've never met Mr. Eminem, and to have him, I've always admired him, and to have him do something like that was pretty painful as an artist to another artist. And it's sad because, well, I think what Stevie Wonder said is true. And I just don't want to say too much more than that. But he should be ashamed of himself, what he's doing. Stevie said he's bullshit, is what he said.
Stevie did, and
he used the word.
He is bullshit.
That's what he said. I mean, I'm not saying what Stevie said it. And Stevie is he's amazing. He's one of the sweetest men in the world, you know.
So when Stevie said that, did you feel a tremendous sense of reassurance of brotherly love there?
Yes, I love Stevie Wonder.
They even tried to ban the video, but that only fueled its popularity.
It wasn't intentional, but I'm just happy that Michael Jackson has heard of me, you know? So
I was thinking that too. Like, that's the kind of cool side of it.
The fact that he's heard of me is you know, that does me enough. But like the personal things, you know, that was not planned. It was making no personal judgment on Michael Jackson. It was not, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was completely...
But let's get back to rapper beefs. The conflict with Cannabis was stranger and more conceptual. Both were seen at the time as technical MCs capable of building complex rhymes and attacking opponents intellectually. But the trigger was someone else's war, Cannabis's beef with LL Cool J. Cannabis suspected Eminem might have been involved in LL Cool J's lyrics for The Ripper Strikes Back. Marshall denied it, but according to him, Cannabis didn't give him a chance to explain properly.
Hate me cause I'm everything you wanna be. Handsome, young, plus legendary. Talk about Farrakhan.
Then a series of jabs began. Cannabis tried to use the Stan persona as if continuing the story of Eminem's character and responded through conceptual tracks. Eminem later released Can I Bitch, mocking Cannabis for poor sales, his voice, image, and attempts to keep the beef alive. Despite Cannabis's technical skill, the public largely remained on Eminem's side.
Cannabis, oh cannabis, wherefore art thou cannabis?
But the loudest conflict of the last decade can confidently be called the feud between Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly. It all started 13 years ago. In 2012, Machine Gun Kelly stated on Twitter that Eminem's daughter was, quote, hot. And this was obviously baiting a reaction from Marshall himself, since his daughter Haley was only 16 at the time.
Eminem did not react at first, so Machine Gun Kelly kept mentioning Marshall everywhere he went. And in one interview, went as far as to claim that Eminem banned his music on his Shade 45 radio station.
I'm my favorite rapper alive, since my favorite rapper banned me from Shade 45. I wonder, what now? It's the Gunna.
Basically, MGK was actively seeking the hip-hop legend's attention, and he finally got what he wanted. In 2018, 6 years later, Eminem decided to openly take shots at his opponent in the track Not Alike.
If you wanna come at me with a submachine gun, and I'm talking to you, but you already know who the fuck you are, Kelly.
And then it all started. Not only was Machine Gun Kelly openly celebrating his mention in Marshall's track on social media, but he also prepared to enter a clearly lopsided battle. He recorded a diss track against Eminem titled Rap Devil. The name was obviously meant to reference Marshall's hit Rap God, hinting that Machine Gun Kelly is Eminem's opposite. Not the rap god, but the rap devil.
You so bad, you stay in yourself. Let's leave all the beef in the 50, please. Then push a 50.
It became the biggest news of the year. The video now has nearly 400 million views, which is an incredible result for Machine Gun Kelly. It's clear that the beef was still working in his favor at that point. But that was just the beginning. The climax was yet to come. It arrived when Eminem, following a high-profile interview, released his response diss, Kill Shot.
Rage got more fans than you in your own city, little kitty, go play. Feel like I'm babysitting, Lil Tay.
We won't even mention that today, Eminem's diss has over 100 million more views than Machine Gun Kelly's. Just look at the quality of the diss itself. Eminem is 1,000 times more technical, toxic and aggressive, which made his work incredibly cool. After such an attack, in our view, Machine Gun Kelly suffered such reputational damage that he didn't know what to do next.
In one of the following interviews, still in 2018, Machine Gun Kelly says that he doesn't intend to continue the beef because he's simply not interested. This sounded rather sly, since it's unclear how you could even respond to such a diss without humiliating yourself even more. But it seems that Machine Gun Kelly still followed the plan he probably came up with even before the conflict began. Riding the wave of hype from this whole situation, he releases the EP Binge. The release flops spectacularly, and that's the first warning sign.
Shit started to look like Maury. The boy lost like Dory. Only one way that I'm performing.
In the 7 days since its release, Binge sold a total of 21,500 copies. And that's even considering that the tracklist included the diss track Rap Devil, whose music video at that time had over 100 million views.
Later, Machine Gun Kelly would blame Eminem for the failure of that project and the next one. And Marshall's own comment on the whole situation looks like this.
Shit is, just for the record, the thing that was going on that he was saying about my daughter. Okay. I wasn't, and then one day, you know, you go down the fucking wormhole of YouTube and whatever, right? So I see Machine Gun Kelly talks about Eminem's daughter, whatever, right? So what the fuck, like, yo, why is he? Then he starts doing a press run, basically, about Haley. I'm like, what the fuck? So that's not why I dissed him. The reason I dissed him is actually a lot more petty than that. Okay. The reason that I dissed him is because he got on. First when he said, I'm the greatest rapper alive since my favorite rapper banned me from Schaefer. Like I'm trying to hinder his career. So I don't give a fuck about your career. You think I actually fucking think about you? You know how many fucking rappers that are better than you? I don't care if you fucking blow or if you don't blow. It doesn't matter to me.
Let's wrap up with the Ja Rule beef. The war with him wasn't just a rap duel anymore, but part of a major clash between camps. Eminem got pulled into the conflict after signing 50 Cent to Shady Records.
The personal feud between 50 Cent and Ja Rule quickly escalated into a standoff between Murder Incorporated, Shady, Aftermath, and G-Unit. At first, Marshall wasn't the main participant in this war, but everything changed after the track Loose Change, where J. Rule mentioned Haley.
Damn, you claim your mother's a crackhead and Kim is a known slut, so what's Haley gonna be when she grows up?
For Eminem, this was once again crossing a red line. He responded in Do Re Mi, Haley's Revenge, Bully, and Hail Mary, hitting Ja Rule as hard as possible. After this beef, Ja Rule's career left much to be desired. The conflict coincided with the decline of Murder Incorporated's influence and Ja Rule's popularity, though the reasons were broader than just one beef.
Because I always thought it funny. He ended up with somebody who potentially was doing the same thing. Baiting people. Oh, M had a lot of people's names in his earliest.
But it's different.
How?
Because M did it comical, fun. It was different. You know what I'm saying? M did it like it wasn't the same.
Wasn't announcing it.
Yeah.
Wasn't threatening.
Yes, and he did it with pop stars.
Obviously, a major part of this confrontation is 50 Cent. Curtis is one of the most famous rappers in the world, and he wouldn't have achieved such results without Eminem.
50 Cent's story before meeting Eminem already looked like a ready-made script for a crime drama.
Curtis Jackson grew up in South Jamaica, Queens, and from an early age was confronted with the streets, drugs, violence, arrests, and the constant need to survive. His mother died when he was a child, hhis father disappeared, and the future rapper was raised by his grandparents. As a teenager, he was involved in boxing and drug dealing and later served time. He took the name 50 Cent as a symbol of change and survival in honor of Brooklyn robber Kelvin Martin. By the early 2000s, 50 Cent was already known in New York's street rap scene, but his position was extremely unstable. He was talented, dangerous, charismatic, and yet toxic for major labels. His violent history of shootings, conflicts, street reputation, and the song Ghetto Quran, where he named real-life criminals, made him a figure the industry feared.
Used to push the bulletproof BM, say I get you seasick. I sat back and peep shit.
After being shot 9 times, he didn't become any less interesting. On the contrary, an almost mythological aura formed around him.
Who has more cred than you, living after being shot 9 fucking times?
I don't know what the criteria are for street credibility. Or
That's
if there's something that creates more merit for you. I looked at that experience as something that was unfortunate that I had to, because
I forget, why did the guy shoot you 9 times? Was it drugs or something?
It was paid to do it.
He was paid to do it?
Yeah.
Who would want to
Why
shoot
were you targeted?
You're such a good guy.
It's my past.
It was a drug thing,
No,
like
it's
a
just-
business thing?
It's karma.
Karma.
Things
Karma.
that
Explain to
I've
me
done.
again why this guy was hired to shoot you 9 times.
Well, you was paid because someone, felt like that I would potentially do something to them if they kept going in the direction that they were going.
Man, you are tough. Motherfucker.
What are you talking about?
The fact that somebody put out a hit on him because he was going to fuck somebody up? What kind of shit is that? That's crazy
But what is
stuff.
this all over?
I don't know.
It's difficult to explain, Robin, because when you're not actually in the environment or involved in this
Just
type of
explain it.
Explain it to
Explain
me.
it. We'll see if we can follow it.
Nah, man, it's just,
What happened? What had you?
It's
what,
so tough.
You were pissed off at someone and you were going after them. What were you pissed off about?
Nah, we was just having differences.
Oh, like over what? A woman?
Nah,
No
just
way.
going back and forth. Like a guy got robbed in the actual neighborhood.
In 2002, the mixtape Guess Who's Back reached Marshall. According to reports, the recording got to him through 50 Cent's lawyer, who was connected to Eminem's manager, Paul Rosenberg. By then, Eminem wasn't just a successful rapper. He was a global superstar after the Slim Shady LP, the Marshall Mathers LP, the Eminem Show, and the 8 Mile Explosion. Eminem later recalled that upon hearing 50 Cent, he knew right away, I have to meet this artist.
So I think the first time I met 50 was at a release party. Was it in New York? I think it was in New York. I met him. I think we talked in the back room, right? Every song he was doing was so crazy there was nothing to get rid of. There was nothing that we could even say, oh, that would be cool for a mixtape. I don't know if we really set out to create anything. It was more, let's just make the best music that we can make.
Once Dre heard a demo from a white rapper from Detroit and risked his name to bring him to the big stage. Now it was Eminem who heard 50 Cent and took a similar step for him. He invited him to Los Angeles and introduced him to Dr. Dre. As a result, 50 Cent signed with Shady Aftermath and Interscope, reportedly for $1 million.
The first steps happened even before the debut album's release. 50 Cent appeared on the 8 Mile soundtrack. His tracks Wanksta and Places to Go were key to his early promotion, especially Wanksta. The song perfectly captured 50 Cent's image, mocking, confident, despising phoniness and weakness.
You ain't a friend of mine. You ain't no kin of mine. What makes you think that I won't run up on you?
He also appeared alongside Eminem on Love Me and Rap Game, featuring Obi Trice and D12. This was strategically important. He wasn't just signed and hidden away, he was immediately placed in the Shady Records universe.
This rap game. I ain't selling my soul for this rap game.
Then Get Rich or Die Trying dropped. In February 2003, 50 Cent's debut album became one of the most powerful launches in hip-hop history. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 and sold about 872,000 copies in the first 4 days. Later, the album sold millions of copies and turned 50 Cent into the leading new figure in rap.
In Da Club, produced by Dr. Dre, wasn't just a hit, it became the anthem of an era. Clubs, radio, MTV, cars, parties, the song was playing everywhere.
Find me in the club, bottle full of bub. Mama, I got what you need if you need to fill a bub.
But the success of Get Rich or Die Tryin' wasn't just about one single. The album worked as a complete myth. 50 Cent sounded like a man who'd truly faced death and returned with a smirk. His image was simultaneously intimidating and commercially perfect. Body armor, scars, a low voice, half-sung choruses, lyrics about money, enemies, the streets, and survival. A key moment in the creative union with Eminem was patiently waiting. At the start, 50 says, "Hi, Em. You know you are my favorite white boy, right? I owe you for this one."
Hey, Em, you know you're my favorite white boy, right?
I owe you for this one.
Their chemistry worked precisely because they were so different. Eminem is nervous, fast, explosive, technically insane, often existing on the edge of hysteria. 50 Cent is cold, relaxed, almost unflappable, as if delivering every threat with a smile. In 2003, Interscope began funding the Group G Unit. This was a direct continuation of 50 Cent's success under the Shady Aftermath wing. G Unit released Beg for Mercy, which went multi-platinum and cemented their status as a top rap group of the early 2000s.
I ain't just flying, 8 out of 8 on moving targets. You run, you still dying. Check my resume, I am.
After his debut, 50 Cent became not just a new rapper, but a commercial machine. In 2003, he received MTV VMA awards, including recognition as one of the top new artists. His second album, The Massacre, in 2005, continued his dominance. Over 1 million copies sold in the first 4 days, #1 on the Billboard 200, and several singles in the top charts at the same time. Candy Shop, Disco Inferno, How We Do. 50 didn't just stay relevant after his debut, he proved that he could dominate pop rap at the highest level.
Everybody put your hands up, let's party. Everybody bounce with me, some champagne.
Eminem kept showing up alongside him. On The Massacre, they recorded Getman and Robin, a track built around the image of a superhero duo, almost cartoonish but very accurate for their relationship at the moment.
Being a little off, land me on top of the charts. So you take the good with the bad.
In 2014, 50 Cent left Shady, Aftermath, and Interscope to pursue other ventures, business, television, film, and his own projects. But it didn't look like a break with Eminem.
50 Cent himself later went on to state that their bond is unbreakable and admitted much of his success is because Eminem believed in his project.
I love him.
Why?
Yeah, just because he gave me my opportunity. I wouldn't even be here, babe.
What are the
You know what I'm saying?
conversations that you guys have when you catch up?
We talk about everything, kids, everything. He didn't want to go on tour big. I showed him a layout. We could have went on tour, me, M, Dre, Snoop.
What was that?
You do not believe how much money.
I know, bro.
M was like, I just don't want to go on tour and come back and hey, at least bro.
This loyalty has been shown many times. 50 Cent often sided with Eminem in conflicts, publicly supporting him and commenting on his diss tracks. When Eminem released Kill Shot against Machine Gun Kelly, 50 praised the track and celebrated its record-breaking impact.
I just got a phone call and the nigga Floyd on his way to France. He told me he gonna teach Joshua some defense and shit. I ain't even got to teach the champ no defense. I got some work for you, champ. I got some work for you.
Y'all already know who it is.
Yeah, you better get
the one hitter, the real one hitter.
You better get that nigga a gun.
For sure.
Eminem has also demonstrated his respect many times. He called 50 Cent one of the best friends he's ever known.
All the things that I don't remember about 2002, I have a very clear memory of the first time I met 50. Something about him just drew you in. Dre and me knew that if it worked on us, that it was gonna work on the rest of the world. And I'm glad we trusted our instincts. I'm here today because this is not only like a business partner to me, it's one of the best friends I've ever known.
In 2022, both became part of the Grand Super Bowl show together with Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Mary J. Blige, and Kendrick Lamar. When Encore came out in 2004, it was clear Eminem was facing an internal crisis for the first time, not an external enemy. Before that, he had moved almost flawlessly. The Slim Shady LP made him a scandal, and the Marshall Mathers LP turned him into a cultural phenomenon. The Eminem Show solidified his status as one of the biggest artists on the planet. But Encore showed the flip side of that speed: burnout, addiction, fatigue from being the provocateur, and the inability to stay Slim Shady forever. The album was commercially successful, but creatively it seemed fractured. There were strong moments in it, but alongside them were strange parody tracks, careless jokes, and a sense that Eminem was no longer so much controlling his madness as hiding behind it. The scandalous, angry, witty Slim Shady, who once sounded like a dangerous voice from America's basement, was now increasingly turning into a caricature of himself.
And then came a pause. This hiatus wasn't just creative. Too much pain had built up in Marshall Mathers' life. Drug addiction, a mental crisis, the death of his close friend Proof in 2006, it all threw him off his rhythm. During that time, rap began to change rapidly, and Eminem himself seemed to vanish from the center of the industry he'd recently dominated.
The first major comeback was Relapse in 2009. It was a dark, technically precise, almost horrorcore album, where Eminem once again brought to the surface serial killers, trauma, violence, grotesque imagery, and inner madness.
Technically speaking, he was still a monster. Rhyme density, internal assonance, flow control. It all showed that as an MC, he hadn't lost his touch. But the problem lay elsewhere. Relapse sounded as if Eminem were trying to artificially resurrect Slim Shady.
After
After I fuck you in the butt, get some head, bust a nut, get some rest. The next day my mother said.
For some, the album became an underrated conceptual comeback. For others, it was a strange attempt to bring back 1999, when the artist himself was already a completely different person. Relapse is important precisely as a document of overcoming addiction. It's not so much a triumph as it is a painful rehabilitation in the form of a rap album. A year later, Recovery was released, and it was a sharp turn. Eminem essentially abandoned the horror persona and focused on openness.
Instead of the manic Slim Shady, a sober Marshall speaks of addiction, falling, returning, fears, and the desire to stand on his own 2 feet again. Not Afraid became an anthem of overcoming, and Love the Way You Lie with Rihanna turned into a global hit.
Now I know we said things, did things that we didn't mean, and we...
Commercially, Recovery was a massive success. It brought Eminem back to the center of pop culture, but at the same time, it finally split his audience. The mainstream listener got an accessible, emotional, almost stadium-level artist. Old fans saw a rapper increasingly choosing pop choruses, loud rock arrangements, and blunt motivational slogans over biting satire and dark storytelling. It was a successful album, but that success came at the cost of a changed image. Eminem was no longer that dangerous rule breaker. He'd become a pop artist, and perhaps that's the root of many of his later issues.
In 2013, he decided to play on his own mythology and released the Marshall Mathers LP 2. Even the title alone was a risky move. The original The Marshall Mathers LP is one of the greatest rap albums of all time, and any sequel would inevitably fall short by comparison. Of course, the album had its strong moments. Bad Guy reinterpreted the story of Stan. Rap God became a showcase of superhuman technique. Headlights was an attempt to reconcile with his mother. This was an album where Eminem once again reminded everyone that technically he is almost untouchable, but at the same time, the record lacked the dark cohesion that made the first part great.
Nevertheless, the Marshall Mathers LP2 can generally be called one of Eminem's most successful late releases, but after that his most controversial period began.
Revival, which came out in 2017, was perhaps the biggest failure in Eminem's later discography. And it wasn't just that he decided to talk about politics, criticize Donald Trump, and address social issues. The problem was in the form. The album sounded heavy-handed, overloaded, and musically outdated. The features with Beyoncé, Ed Sheeran, Alicia Keys, and other big pop stars didn't feel like an organic expansion of his sound, but rather like an attempt to make the most important and grand release possible.
Eminem wanted to be serious, but often became preachy. He wanted to be relevant, but sounded like he was chasing an industry he no longer fully grasped. After all, the industry had already been reshaped by streaming, trap, and even SoundCloud rap in some places. Not all major artists were able to adapt to these changes.
However, Marshall's response came quickly. In 2018, Kamikaze was released without any warning. Eminem switched back to battle mode and started taking shots at critics, freshmen, and the media who didn't like Revival. This had the energy that the previous release was lacking. Kamikaze sounded angrier, more focused, and more alive. The track Lucky You with Joyner Lucas showed that Eminem could still compete in technical rap, and the conflict with Machine Gun Kelly, followed by Killshot, brought back his image as a dangerous opponent.
Waiting, I done lost my patience. I can take all of you motherfuckers on it once. You want it shady, you got it.
But Kamikaze had a weak side. It wasn't so much a full album as an emotional response to criticism. It worked like a fist slammed on a table, but it didn't provide a new direction. Eminem proved once again he could destroy rivals, but he didn't prove he knew where to go next.
I had only had one song. This was like January.
Yeah.
I had the one song and was thinking about releasing it, and then wrote another song. Okay, now I got 2 songs. I might as well do a fucking album. Dre also, there's a couple songs that he didn't have a good reaction to them, and he also felt like one of them was going a little far.
What does that mean? Like, how far did it go?
It definitely went too far.
When you say go too far, I feel like Kamikaze was the place where if you were ever going to go too far, this was where it would.
In 2020, Music to Be Murdered By was released, an album that once again raised questions about late-career Eminem.
On one hand, there were some good moments. Godzilla with Juice WRLD became a huge hit, and Eminem's high-speed ending went viral once again.
Fill him with the venom and eliminate him. Other words, I'm intimate him. I don't want to hurt him, but I did him in a fit of rage. I'm murdering again. Nobody will have him.
There were also solid rap tracks where he showcased his skill, his play with rhythm, and his ability to work with new artists. On the other hand, the album felt like a compilation of different attempts, a bit of horror, a bit of battle rap, some pop choruses, and some modern beats, and a bit of the old shady.
The main problem was a lack of cohesion. It was as if Eminem wanted to be a veteran, a technician, a provocateur, a pop star, and a part of modern streaming rap all at once. Even his music videos for this release were shot by Lyrical Lemonade, who rose to fame through collaborations with the New School.
As a result, strong tracks stood side by side with mediocre ones, and the attempts to sound relevant sometimes felt forced. Music to Be Murdered Murdered By was not a disaster, but it reinforced the feeling that Eminem was no longer leading the genre, but rather trying to find his place within a genre that had long since learned to evolve without him.
About Music to Be Murdered By. It's inspired by the 1958 release from Alfred Hitchcock with the same title. What made you do that?
Well, it was actually, Dre had the sample like years ago, right? And he made a beat to it. And one day it just popped in my head. I can't remember why. So I hit him and I was like, yo, whatever happened to that beat? And he was like, oh, it's still around. So, but the beat was different. I just updated a little bit with some drums and shit, right? But like it was based off that I started thinking like, yo, that whole concept is crazy. Like Music to Be Murdered By, like, I wonder if I could play off this whole Alfred Hitchcock thing. And then Dre started hitting me with ideas. It was like, yo, you need to listen to this album that he has.
And here it's important to look broader, not just at Eminem himself, but at the industry surrounding him.
In the early 2000s, Eminem was an anomaly. Hip-hop historically grew out of African-American culture, from neighborhoods where music was not just entertainment, but a language of social experience, of poverty, racism, street life, and protest.
In other genres, rock and roll, jazz, blues, history has often shown that music created by black artists eventually becomes commercially associated with white stars. But with hip-hop, that didn't happen. Eminem became the most successful rapper commercially, but he didn't whitewash the genre.
That's exactly why a strange void formed after him. Labels wanted a new Eminem. They needed to replicate his success, because one artist, that's good but risky. However, no one understood exactly what to copy. Skin color, scandal, fast rapping, a traumatic biography, a battle rap past, or having Dr. Dre by his side. The problem was that Eminem worked as a unique combination of factors.
Nevertheless, the industry tried. In the 2010s, white rap suddenly became much more active. One of the most successful attempts was Macklemore. Together with Ryan Lewis, he made huge hits, shot music videos with billions of views, and won a Grammy for Best Rap Album.
But it was this very victory that became a trap for him. When his album beat Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, M.A.A.D. City, many saw it as a cultural injustice, maybe even as racism. Macklemore turned out to be a convenient white rapper for the mainstream, friendly, socially conscious, and safe. But that's not Eminem at all.
Another direction was taken by artists like Machine Gun Kelly and NF. They gathered a large audience, especially among listeners who are drawn not so much to hip-hop as a culture, but to the very idea of someone rapping quickly and emotionally. For NF, this resulted in dark, therapeutic music for his audience, which was often far removed from the classic rap community. For MGK, it became an attempt to prove that he was a real rapper, including his conflict with Eminem. But after Killshot, this image took a serious hit, and MGK eventually switched to pop-punk. Eminem also tried to raise a successor through Shady Records. Take Yelawolf. He had technique, southern identity, a rap country fusion, a unique voice, and an unconventional image, yet he never went mainstream.
Partly because country rap and the southern aesthetic were seen as ambiguous, partly due to a controversial visual code, including Confederate flag associations, and partly because the public no longer expected a new Eminem in the old sense. At the same time, white artists appeared who didn't follow the path of copying Eminem, but rather created their own style. And this became a major turning point for white rap and potentially blurred Marshall's uniqueness.
Mac Miller is another. He never sought to be the new Shady, avoided the maniac persona, and never tried to prove he was the most technical. His strength lay in sincerity, genre eclecticism, psychedelia, and confession.
Without no lubricant, bullshit, you just full of it. Stupid bitch, keep on hating.
Post Malone moved away from the classic rapper canon altogether. He used rap as one of his tools, seamlessly blending it with pop, soul, rock, folk, and country. This approach proved to be much more organic than simply trying to prove his rapper authenticity.
I got a feeling that it's time to let it go. Let it go.
A new generation of white artists increasingly stopped striving to be real rappers in the old sense. Lil Peep, Young Lean, Blady, and others used hip-hop as just one of their tools. They were bolder in mixing genres, bolder in putting out their experiments. The internet and streaming helped them with this, and against this backdrop, it became harder for Eminem. While he was returning to old conflicts, the industry was already living by different rules. The second half of the 2000s and the 2010s changed rap radically.
Atlanta came to the forefront. Trap became the global sound, the internet turned the underground into a direct elevator to fame, and technical rapping stopped being the main criterion for significance. Kanye West expanded the idea of what a rap album could be. Drake made emotional pop rap the new norm.
For Eminem, this was a serious challenge. His school was built on the word, technique, punchlines, internal drama, and conflict. But the new industry increasingly worked through sound, mood, mimetic quality, and streaming repeatability. That's why late Eminem often sounds contradictory. His status remains giant, he's still called a symbol of Detroit, and he's treated as the city's cultural ambassador. His old and new tracks continue to live on streaming. By the way, about the symbol of Detroit, these aren't empty claims. The governor of Michigan called Marshall a symbol of this city.
Met him. I would love to be friends with him, but he's...
if you're watching.
I think he's, yeah. Marshall, I love you. I met him and he's very reserved. Yeah. I think he's kind of shy, you know, and which is so interesting when you see the talent that he displays on stage and the way he interacts with people. I think a lot of folks in Michigan are really proud that he's a great ambassador for it.
Probably one of Eminem's most controversial releases was his latest project, The Death of Slim Shady, which came out in 2024. On paper, the idea was powerful. Eminem announced a conceptual album about the death of Slim Shady and even asked to listen to the tracks in order. Before the release, he launched an entire campaign, a fake Slim Shady obituary in the Detroit Free Press, a true crime-style trailer, and music videos for Houdini and Toby. In Houdini, he pitted an adult Marshall against his younger self from the early 2000s, using nostalgia, old music video quotes, and sampling Steve Miller Band's Abracadabra.
Break it down. Sometimes I wonder what the old me say.
In the album's plot, Slim Shady kidnaps Eminem to record the album Sabotage, which is supposed to lead to Marshall's cancellation. Most of the record is built as a dialogue between the old alter ego and the current Mathers. Shady provokes again, attacks Zoomers, laughs at pronouns, social media, cancel culture, and modern sensitivity. Marshall, on the other hand, tries to explain why it's time to get rid of this character. Shady is linked not only to fame, but also to addiction, broken relationships, guilt toward his children, and personal catastrophes. He, for example, communicated with his alter ego in this kind of way.
And if we're being honest, the music that you've been dropping since I bounced, ain't it? Like, for real? When I heard your last I thought that shit was fucking AI.
Really? So a computer can write Rap God?
Look, man, no one gives a fuck about your lyrical miracles. You're scaring the hoes. People want to be entertained.
Conceptually, this could have been a very strong finale for the old image. The problem is that the implementation itself turned out to be controversial. What sounded like a dangerous attack on hypocritical America in 1999 was often perceived in 2024 as the anger of a man who is irritated by the new world but doesn't fully understand it. Musically, the album also doesn't solve the long-standing problem of late Eminem. Some horror synths here, rock, or old samples there, some attempts to approach a modern sound, but it rarely adds up to a truly fresh sound.
And yet it can't be said that the release was a complete failure. Houdini became a major streaming success and proved that interest in Eminem is still huge. The track didn't just ride on nostalgia in the first few weeks, it kept going, surpassed some of his older hits in streaming, and secured its place among the artist's most popular songs.
That's an important detail. Even when critics say Eminem is stuck in the past, the audience still reacts to that past with immense power. But that's exactly the paradox of late Eminem. His nostalgia works much better than his attempts to be modern. When he cosplays his old self, millions of listeners tune in. When he tries to fit into new trends, it often sounds unconvincing. When he shows off his speed, the internet admires the technique, but when it comes to an artistic statement, you get the feeling that Eminem is increasingly arguing with a world that's long since stopped being the world where Slim Shady was born. That's it, bye everyone.
Bye.